What's up, people? Joe Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here's my next episode of Joe Winko Talk. I'm gonna be doing this episode of Joe Winko Talk on this news story I came across online. It's the state with the highest number of people moving out. The state that ranked the highest number of people moving out of all states in the USA. The state that ranked the highest number of people moving out was Illinois. So I was actually kind of shocked about that, really, because Illinois, it's not that it never it's not that bad of a state, really. Well, I don't know much about Illinois. I mean, I'm assuming it's warmer than Wisconsin because it's closer to the equator than Wisconsin. Like Chicago still gets just as cold as Milwaukee, but I think southern Illinois is warmer than Wisconsin. But then again, southern Illinois is kind of a hot spot for tornadoes, so I never would want to move there. So Wisconsin comes in at number 10 for the highest number of people moving out of the state. And I don't blame them at all because I absolutely hate Wisconsin. It was awful. I never liked Wisconsin. It's cold. The people are jerks. I never had any friends in Wisconsin. The only friend I had in Wisconsin. Sorry about that. My Skype was loading up. The only friend I had in Wisconsin was a dog named Riot, and she wasn't even my dog. Um, I miss her though. She was so adorable, and she's not even human. So there's no human friends I had in Wisconsin. But another thing people say about Wisconsin is that they always say that it's like the cheese state. What is up with that? Like, I lived in Wisconsin my whole entire life. There's nothing special about the cheese of Wisconsin. I mean, there's just as much cheese in Wisconsin as there is anywhere else in the USA. Yeah, they wear the cheese hats every now and then, and you can get them from the souvenir stand at the airport. But there's nothing special about the cheese in Wisconsin. So I don't know why people make such a big deal about that. It's such a cold and miserable place. I cannot stand Wisconsin at all. Speaking of cold, as you all know, I'm living down south right now. And recently a cold front came in, and this state usually, like, it's 40 degrees here right now, and it feels so much colder though because we have high humidity from the Atlantic Ocean, and it's not good. I don't like the cold. It's definitely too cold to go to the beach. But I still think it's interesting that Illinois is ranked the top state for people moving out. It says here in the news article, I'll have the link to that in the description. The survey revealed that 63% of moves in Illinois were outbound, while 37% were inbound. So 63 out of 100 people are moving out of Illinois, and 37 out of 100 people are moving into Illinois. Gosh, the population there is shrinking. I always thought Chicago was a big fancy city that everyone wanted to live at. Well, Chicago does get cold. I prefer Los Angeles instead because it's warmer. Well, actually, no. I wouldn't want to live in a big city. I prefer like some place in the outskirts down south, really. Um, Not quite where I'm living right now. Yeah, I am living down south, but not in a very bike friendly neighborhood. But I don't really like big cities. Visiting big cities, that's fun because I like seeing the skyscrapers, but living in them, no. And I actually ran away to Chicago back when I was 10 years old. That place isn't really as glamorous as it seems, and it's definitely not the place for a 10-year-old to run away to and live on the streets at. Gosh, that was awful. Um, but yeah, I still do like Chicago. The song, what is it? Is it Glamorous by Fergie? You know that one when she's singing about flying first class on an airplane with champagne? Whenever I hear that song, I always think of Chicago for some reason. Yeah, and the Sears Tower is absolutely beautiful too. I think it's weird how the city like grew so much, how it has like 3 million people, but it's like in a really cold region of the USA. I didn't think I didn't think any city that far north would get that many people because I thought people wanted to live someplace warm. But it is a nice city, like in the good parts of Chicago, but some parts of Chicago are really bad, worse than Milwaukee. And plus, I heard that the murder rate there is high too. Okay, we're getting off topic, but let me show you something else. The article also featured a map, and I'll I have the embed code for the map because the site. Hold on one second. Embed code preview. Because the site has like these advertisements on it, and it's kind of annoying. But what I'll have a link in the pinned comments so you guys can just see the map by itself without any advertisements over it. So let me show it to you right here. So these are all the states that have that show like the inbound and outbound moving rate. So the ones that are gray are balanced. The ones that are dark blue have that means it's high inbound moving rate, as in people are moving into them, and the ones that are dark yellow means that it has a high outbound rate, that people are moving out of them. So as you all know, Illinois is the highest, but New York has a high outbound rate. So does New Jersey and Connecticut. And the lighter color blue and the lighter color yellow, that means that more people are moving out than people moving in, but at a less difference of the rate. Like the Ohio, they have a higher outbound rate, but they're not like super high like the dark yellow states, and that kind of surprised me because I always liked Ohio. But I wouldn't want to live there. It's way too cold. I did a whole episode of Joe Winko talk about my love for Ohio. Planning on redoing that episode when I get the chance to. Kentucky also has a higher outbound rate, and Alabama has a higher inbound rate. I think it's because Alabama finally became a Democratic state. Well, that didn't happen until recently, but Alabama is finally a Democrat state, so yay to Alabama, because they didn't let a child molester win the elections. I still think that's fucked up that he even made it to the elections. Like, that he was doing that to girls and everything. That's sick. But there's another weird thing, too. Okay, so North Carolina has a higher inbound rate. And the scary thing is, North Carolina was almost the state I ended up at, but I wouldn't, I would have, if what the psychic said would have happened, I would have been in North Carolina right now, but I wouldn't be alive in North Carolina. My remains would have been buried at a cemetery in North Carolina, because I was supposed to be killed by a tornado there. I did an episode of Joe Winko talk about that a while ago. I'll have the link to that in the pinned comments as well. Yeah, because, and another scary thing is, one person on a web forum sent me a message and they asked me, "Hey, you're still alive, I'm glad you are." And I said, "Yeah, I am still alive. My adoptive parents sent me down south to live with relatives. They didn't send me to North Carolina. They never were going to anyway." But then they said, "Oh, well, I'm glad because there's actually been reports of violent tornadoes hitting here in North Carolina." And this was in October when it was supposed to happen. And I was like, "Oh gosh, there were?" That was scary. But yeah, tornadoes can happen all over, but they mostly happen in Oklahoma and Illinois and away from the mountains, really. But they can happen in the mountains. I heard that West Virginia had a couple of tornadoes. But, it's kind of sad that people are moving out of the prairie state. I never thought Illinois was a bad place at all. I actually like it. I've been driven through Illinois because it's a big state, too. It's a long state, because the stranger from Craigslist who took me on the road trip to Arkansas, we went through Illinois, and it took us forever to get through that state, because we were driving down Interstate 57. I was like, we're still in Illinois? But it's really pretty. Lots of green fields and a couple hills here and there. The mountains are out in Missouri and Arkansas, the Ozark Mountains, but they're not as high as the mountains out west. The mountains out west are always higher because they're a newer mountain system. The ones out east have worn down over time, but they still have mountains out east. So I think that's pretty interesting. Also, Kansas has a little bit more of a higher outbound rate, but yeah, another thing is the tornadoes that hit there. Because Kansas is, it's not as bad as Oklahoma from what I've read, but Kansas gets kind of wiped out by tornadoes every now and then too. And more people are moving to South Dakota too. South Dakota is pretty nice. I haven't been there since 2006, but I kind of do want to go back. Interstate 90 takes you through South Dakota. I-94 goes through North Dakota. Interstate 90 goes through South Dakota. They run parallel to each other until they intersect in Billings, Montana. That's where I-94 ends, and it becomes Interstate 90, which goes all the way out to Seattle, Washington. And if you head east, Interstate 90 goes all the way out to Boston, Massachusetts. And Interstate 90 does go through Wisconsin, but it also merges with Interstate 80 throughout Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. I've been looking at Google Maps way too long, but yeah. If you all want to know, Interstate 80 goes from New Jersey to San Francisco, California. That'd be a fun road trip, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's literally cross country. I think that's the same road trip that Felicity went on in Felicity. Oh, I miss watching Felicity. So, yeah, I'll have the link to this news story article in the pinned comments. So tell me what you think of it. What do you think of, why do you think so many people are moving out of Illinois? Please let me know in the pinned comments. Would love to hear your thoughts, and it would be a fun discussion to have. So that's basically it. So don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. So that's it. Peace out, people.